Welcome back to the world of IDW Sonic. Today we're taking a look at issue 19. And before we get started with even the previous issue's recap, I like to share some tidbits about the Metal Virus arc I found online, and I like to thank the people who were kind enough to tell me about it. For those unaware, writer Ian Flynn has a podcast series called Bumblecast, where he covers various items, answers questions, and reveals some behind the scenes stuff. On one of his more recent Bumblecasts, he revealed that the Metal Virus saga was originally planned for the Archie Sonic comics. It's because the editor over there wanted to jump in on the whole zombie craze at the time. The idea was shelved thanks to Afterlife with Archie. It was going to get revived during the Archie Sonic reboot, but then the cancellation happened. But hey, the idea lives on in the pages of IDW Sonic. Who knows what other ideas Ian may be able to bring over here in the future. Anyway, let's go on to recapping the previous issue. And as always, spoilers from here on out. Eggman attacks the town where Cream the Rabbit and her family live purely to mess with Sonic. Despite some hiccups here and there, Sonic was able to get Cream, her mother Vanilla, and any other survivors out of town and towards an evacuation airship. Unfortunately, Chow companions Cheese and Chocola were infected, but at least they went down trying to protect the rabbits. The Metal Virus situation continues to get worse as we learn that the more the Zombots spread out and infect living things, the less control Eggman has over them. And with the next target being Sunset City, things are only going to get worse. We start with a brief history of Sunset City. It was once a major merchant hub until Eggman attacked it during the events of Sonic Forces. The city started rebuilding after the war until Eggman returned and launched a Metal Virus attack. Man, this place can't catch a break, can it? Sonic arrives in the aftermath, searching for any survivors while at the same time getting worried over his own infection escalating thanks to Zombot contact. There are people trapped in a building Sonic cannot reach, until he gets some quote-unquote help from E123 Omega, making his IDW series debut. I say quote-unquote help because he's doing what he's always been doing since his Sonic Heroes debut, eliminating any robots created by Eggman. Since a Zombot is technically a type of robot created by Eggman, that's good enough for Omega. Don't worry, as I've said over and over, Zombots are very resilient. This does allow the people to exit the building, and Sonic and an arriving Rouge direct them towards the Grand Gold Flicky Hotel where other survivors are located. At said hotel, Rouge orders what I guess is the local police to make sure Zombots don't surround the area. She and Sonic take a moment to brief each other on the situation involving Sonic's condition and how the Zombots are beyond Eggman's control. Speaking of which, hordes of Zombots are coming from multiple directions. Sonic does his best to keep them from the hotel, and Omega doesn't have enough ammo to keep them all back. This is usually when someone else arrives via a big hero moment. That someone is, of course, Shadow, mowing through the Zombots in a big truck. He gives Sonic, in his own way, the I told you so speech in relation to what happened back in issue 6. Not even Sonic explaining Starline's involvement changes Shadow's mind. Sonic's off to get rid of his symptoms again, and advises Shadow to also run should any Zombots touch him. Out of earshot, Shadow says, "Cowards run, I win." Remember this. The truck's more than a glorified battering ram. It's the means Team Dark will use to evacuate the survivors. The plan is Omega will safeguard the truck, Rouge will get the survivors into said truck, and Shadow will tackle the massive Zombot horde. And boy does he give it to them. Is it reckless? Oh yeah, even Rouge sees this. But when you're christened the ultimate life form, it tends to go to your head. He'll soon get a dose of reality as, thanks to touching the Zombots, he starts getting infected. Rouge tells him to run, but Shadow, thinking it's a cowardly act, stands his ground. Omega cannot help because he's keeping as many Zombots away from the truck as possible, and thus, we can add Shadow to the list of named victims. Sonic returns from his run, only for Rouge to tell him to handle Shadow. And we end this issue with Sonic being grabbed by Shadow the Zombot. Sadly, we're starting to see, in my opinion, one of Ian's writing weaknesses making a steady return. Repetition of basic story beats. In the past 3 issues, we've had Eggman launching an attack on a populated area with game characters present, said characters do their best to save the survivors, Sonic arrives to help, but has to leave to run off his own infection, and a part of the game group falls victim to the virus. I'm going to go easy on this a little bit because of the following. There is a sense of escalation, not only with the growing number of Zombots, but with how Sonic handles one of his friends getting infected. He was unable to find Charmy, and he was able to briefly contain Cheese and Chocola. Shadow will be a whole new ballpark. What led to Shadow getting infected in the first place is a combination of 2 things: pride/arrogance, and miscommunication. Shadow is the ultimate life form. He has abilities that set him apart from many individuals, including Sonic. Like I said earlier, this kind of thing tends to go to one's head. It's that kind of thick-headedness that leads to one ignoring the advice of others, thinking, "I've got this," when sometimes you don't. This brings us to the second reason why we lost Shadow: miscommunication. Sonic, and later Rouge, told him to run if he got infected. Shadow sees it as an act of cowardice, rather as the means to burn off the infection like Sonic does, implying that Shadow is at least as fast as Sonic in this continuity, and might have been able to burn it off if he had listened to his allies. But that's the thing. They don't go into details about why running off the infection is important. I know in the heat of the moment you're not thinking straight, so some details may slip your mind, but wouldn't it just take a few seconds to explain to Shadow, if you're infected, run so you can burn it off and you can keep fighting without changing? Well, he did change, and his appearance is a combination of his Sonic Hero's metal skin and for some reason Mephiles' red eyes. Well, both this issue and the next is called Crisis City. If you're wondering, why did Shadow change in the first place? I thought he was created to find cures to diseases. Well, yes, but remember, the sole purpose of the metal virus is to transform organic material into metal. Like it or not, Shadow is organic, even if he's part alien. Going back to Sonic for a bit, another reason I'm cutting the repetitive nature some slack is it's actually having a toll on the Hedgehog. During his latest virus runoff, he's actually starting to get tired. Even he knows he cannot keep this up forever. During that same scene, he briefly reflects on the friends he's lost, and not regretting his decision to let Mr. Tinker stay in Windmill Village in issue 6. He could not have anticipated outside forces bringing Eggman back. Omega is Omega, but Rouge really took charge during the crisis. She is determined not to let civilization fall because she won't have much fun stealing jewels and valuables. Let's touch upon a number of game nods. First, there's Shadow driving a truck. Besides the fact that Shadow drove a vehicle like he did in a couple of games, I think this is also supposed to be a nod to the infamous gun truck. For those wondering, where are the humans? Remember, the comic is going for the 2 worlds thing, despite supposed locations from the human world popping up here and there. I'm just going with the flow for now. Let's focus on this location, Sunset City. I think this is the city that was featured in Sonic Forces. During its brief history, we see Death Egg Sentinels attacking it, just like in the game. That red bridge there has to be Red Gate Bridge. And lastly, the city in the game has a location called Sunset Heights. Huh? You know, it's always nice to expand on game locations. This story's not over yet. Sonic and Omega have to face the Zombot Horde, which now includes Shadow, while keeping the survivors safe. And what can Rouge do without getting infected herself? We'll find out next time in issue 20. By the way, Shadow getting infected was revealed a week before this issue came out, thanks to this release of an alternate cover for issue 20. One of the sacrifices for promotion is shock value, I guess.